Steve August Fáilte go Watkins Glen for rounds 5 and 6 of the Digital-Motorsports.com iDMC winter season for 2021 in association with Motorsport Ireland. My name is Kevin Galvin, and joining me today, unusually, my usual partner Jack Canan is not able to make it. So you'll see there on the graphic in front of you a familiar face and a familiar name, yet unfamiliar to the booth. Niall Maher. Niall, thanks a million for joining me up here. We're back in Watkins Glen. I suppose a course that's very familiar to anybody who spends a lot of time in iRacing, but one we haven't seen in a while over the iDMC series. Certainly one I haven't commentated on before. Still, we see the same names up the top of the timing sheets, but a really exciting prospect in front of us. So I suppose we had 4 separate winners in our first 4 races, so it just goes to show you how competitive this season's been already.
I'm just looking at it here. We have, I'm just trying to see how many drivers in. We've a fairly full grid, but we're already 4 minutes into qualifying, and Dave Maguire again setting the time. He's really going well. We've raced here a few times in the past, a couple of different series, and we've raced in a couple of different platforms, a set of course and iRacing, of course. But I think this is a favourite of some of the regulars that we have with Digital Motorsport. But certainly, I'm looking forward to this one. Hard to pick a winner.
Absolutely, because we've had 4, as we say, and Dave Maguire, one of those. And I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but I'm wondering, is Dave one of the drivers going forward for a very exciting event we have coming up, the eDMC? Am I allowed to ask you this question? Is this a very...
This is an official, how do you say, press release day for it, but we are going to announce it. Yes, there is going to be a European Digital Motorsports Cup called the Race of Nations. It's in 2 weeks' time on the 14th. This is the exclusive. Digital Motorsports are a partner and the sponsor of the event. It's a collaboration between 8 ASMs across Europe, so it is an official race. It's going to bring 60 of the best pro and digital drivers together. Let's play a quick video and see what they have to offer.
Imagine 7 different nations compete for glory toward their nation in one race. Imagine this race was supported by their respective governing bodies. March 14th, you no longer need to imagine, as sim racers and pro drivers meet at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps in the Race of Nations, Presented by European Digital Motorsport Cup. 7 nations, 1 winner. Tune in March 14th to witness greatness unfold as we throne the strongest nation.
That looks pretty epic.
I absolutely love the livery on those Irish cars as well. Looked absolutely sick.
Class,
I love tricolour liveries. No, it's really, really exciting. As you say, like 7 or 8 different countries involved in it. As we see, like a bit of a teaser there, we see the Swedes and the Danes are involved. The Danes have such a rich history of sim racing, even with the 24-hour R Factor series, and there's so many guys that are super, super quick. It's just going to be massively exciting, isn't it? And I suppose, look, isn't this kind of the natural step forward we see with so many other esports and so many other sports in general? You know, you do your domestic championships, and then really, you know, this is like the Champions League, isn't it? Like it's like winning the League of Ireland and going into the Champions League at that point, like straight into the top 8.
It's great to see, finally to see, you know, sim racing, or digital motorsports as it's now being called, taking that step forward. Like, this is, in reality, was saying 7 ASNs. It was a group of 3 of us that got together at the start and really fleshed out this idea, and it was very much like there was all these countries running their own what do you say, like we have here, our own championships, and I'm trying to see if there's anyone out on track at the moment, but it was really a case of getting that pulled together and getting the drivers in place so that we could get this. Now it's going to be, it was originally meant to be 2 races. There was going to be a individual drivers race to crown 1 driver, and then the nations. But with time against us and with COVID, we really just had to pull out all the stops to get this lined up. But it's going to be fantastic. I'm hesitating here because I could name the team that we're putting forward, but it hasn't been released officially yet. I think I'll be a bit cheeky with it. Hold on, let me see if I can do that. Just make sure you have the backing of everyone here, because make sure that everyone's contacted. Nothing worse than releasing the team without the people who own themselves. Well, the drivers have been notified, but it's a good team. Let me put it that way. I wouldn't be putting forward a team that I wasn't fully confident was going to go over and win.
And I suppose that's the cool thing about at the moment, and I do want to get back to qualifying, because our championship leader Alex Dunn has gone fastest with a 1:47.6. We'll speak a little bit more about Alex later on. Having a flying season this season, young man. But I suppose back to the eDMC, and what makes it so interesting is that a lot of these things now we can organise while we're like virtual. We can kind of do the first one virtually, which probably makes it a little bit easier. There's less travel costs, you know, and then that opens up the potential then when everything opens up and when we're allowed travel internationally again, fingers crossed, the end Q4 of 2021 or perhaps the start of 2022, but that we can almost do it in person and have something like that in person, which would be absolutely sick.
Right, well, just as we're at the end, I'm going to be bold and do this and call out the drive. It may change, there might be 1 or 2, but the team we're sending forward has Charlie Eastwood down. Charlie has to depend on how his racing is going with himself, and just keeping an eye in the background because we don't want to miss the start of this race. But delight with that. Alex Stone, he couldn't leave him out. He's blisteringly fast, isn't he? He's so on pace. Great teaming down of Nicky Meredith, Niall Murray, and an undeniable force of the 2 guys from VRA Racing, Peter McCann, Brian McManus, and I'm just keeping an eye on the background of the race as well. So Jordan Kelly, Oscar Mangan, Jonathan Brown, David Maguire, and then look at that for a matchup. We've got Peter Dempsey and Keith Dempsey. You couldn't make that up. But let's get to the racing now as we're getting ready to go for lights out. I'll hand this over to you, and I won't upset anyone, but that is the exclusive we have at the moment. That is the press release. What a pairing that's going to be with Peter and Keith as well. That's I'd say it's great for the two guys to get in there, but here we go. Over to you.
Massively exciting, and as we say, you can watch a lot of the guys racing here right now. We have the top five guys here. Our top five on the grid: Alex Dunn, Keith Dempsey, Josh Malin, Dave Maguire, and Peter Dempsey. Jason Smith in 6th, Nicky Merritt in 7th, Ronan Darty in 8th, Robert Moore 9th, and Sean McGovern 10th. That's your top 10. That's about as far as I'm going to get before we go lights out here at Watkins Glen. But here, as we say, the guys, you're talking about the very, very best in the country, and an awful lot of the guys you're going to be watching tonight are the guys that will be representing Ireland in that European Digital Motorsports Cup in the Cup of Nations. So Alex Dunn on P1, he's our championship leader, of course, with a win already to his name. The young man will get along to talking a little bit more about him being well guided by his father Noel, a former champion himself, of course. But as we get ready to go lights out here on the Heat 1 of round 5 of the iDMC winter season here at Watkins Glen.
I'm just seeing this. There's a car missing off the grid. That's what I was trying to spot, but I think we've got everyone there now. And
because we're already 2 minutes on the clock already, as you can see. This is horrible as well as we wait for lights to go out now. And we are getting ready. If we got 4, 3, 2, 1, we are almost ready on lights out here at Watkins Glen for round 5 of the iDMC, and already a brilliant start there by second place. Keith Dempsey's gone into first ahead of Alex Duncan. Now Dunn keep it inside. He does have the inside line. He's going to hold on to that, but Keith will battle him hammer and tongs. And Keith, I think, is taking the lead. That's a great start there for Keith Dempsey already straight off the line, overtaking Alex Dunn. A brilliant round the outside. No huge changes elsewhere. We can see still Josh Malin in 3rd place. Josh had a bit of an unfortunate moment and ended up making a YouTube compilation clip for Bathurst this week as they're battling for position, jostling left and right, and that is the sort of stuff that gives you nightmares as the cars weave in and out of each other. Looks like Josh Malin now has gone into the lead there with a brilliant move. Alex Dunn now in 2nd, Keith Dempsey back to 3rd. It's all changed as we go down around the bend there, and we come back onto the back straight here at Watkins Glen. Josh Malin now leading. He had a very unfortunate, of course, not to be higher up in the iDMC season last year with the disconnection late on at Spa-Francorchamps, but he's making the most of this opportunity now as we carry on round through this long course here. We're using the boot course here at Watkins Glen. 1971 that first opened as the drivers come back down the back straight, and we have a little bit of a bus stop chicane now ahead of us. That's Malin taking the right turn back around. I'm after losing myself in the course, and that's the toe actually. But Malin's still in 1st place. Ronan Darty up into 9th position now. He's down 1 place from where he began. But there is all change with Josh Malin leading. So Josh Malin started 3rd, now 1st. Alex Dunn started 1st, now 2nd. Keith Dempsey stay down a place from 2nd place as well. So it's all changed. Peter Dempsey in 4th point, and Nicky Meredith now making changes. And a big issue for Peter Dempsey and Dave Maguire is that Dave Maguire, our former championship leader, had a big accident there involved. And that is a big instant in terms of the course of the championship, because Maguire was running really well. Josh Malin now has a nice little gap, almost a 2nd gap ahead of Alex Dunn. Keith Dempsey 1.2 behind them. Now what a start to that one, breathless.
Just going back to Jason Smith, there's a gaggle of cars here. I'm not sure who that is on the outside going slow, obviously with damage. But what an open lap that was. And I'm just looking at this really well as well. Look at that for a picture.
Up 6 places, Sean McGovern into 4th, up from 10th. That's a brilliant start from McGovern, and certainly profiting from that incident. And just as I say that, he's got tapped from behind. Who was involved? I couldn't see quite who was involved in it. Was it Ronan Darty or Jason Smith?
But
McGovern gets a tap from behind, gets turned around and up 4 places. Now he's all the way back down to 60th. That's a really unfortunate for Harry McGovern, who's been doing really well. He's always been kind of in and around the top places, and was very competitive in the Pro-Am last year in the BMW series as well. Murray's had an issue. He's dropped down the place. You see an awful lot of very high attrition here. Most cars manage to make it through safety. But look at that. I can try to see there, but it's almost like NASCAR, like IndyCar. They're almost buffing each other down into 2 lanes as somebody locks up down the inside ahead of Niall Murray. He had that incident earlier on. He's still up 6 places, however, and will be. He had an amazing race last week. He was, or 2 weeks ago, should I say? He was up 12 or 13 places in the feature race. Fantastic stuff, and as you say, we're on board there, or we're not on board, but looking at Rob Moore, but Josh Malin's obviously in the lead, but as you say, Niall, a gaggle of cars there, and it'll take some time to separate these out, and I suppose it's a case of just trying to keep your nose clean, because one small tap, a couple of tenths lost, and all of a sudden you've lost 6 or 7 places.
Well, absolutely. I'm just trying to keep up with this, because I think our cameraman's having issues here as well, keeping up with this. There's just so much going on, but just have a look back down the field at John McDonald.
A huge incident there, sorry to cut you off now, a massive incident. Trying to see that involved. There's Harry McGovern again, who was mainly involved, as we see an incident between car number 15 and 34 under investigation. We'll try to see if we can get confirmation as to who exactly that is. But a huge incident there at the back straight. I'm surprised to see not more cars have been affected by that. And one spin, one person goes off, as we see another incident between Fabrizio Rivera and Brian McManus down behind there. It's all about just trying to stay clean, isn't it? It's all about just trying to stay out of trouble and trying to be as competitive as you can without pushing too hard. There's bent wings and broken front wings and bits of carbon fibre all over Watkins Glen.
And we're only on lap 3 here as we ride on board with Ronan Doherty, and you can just see how close and competitive these cars in this pro class. Let's just go back with Josh Malin. I think, is he coming under pressure now up front? And let's just look back. He is, yeah. Alex Dunn is starting to make his move on him as well. So we're on lap 3. We have a fair distance to go, but it's Josh Malin from Alex Dunn from Nicky Meredith's right up there as well. But great racing so far.
Yeah, brilliant stuff, and hopefully we get to see these guys started out a little bit. Remember, of course, there's a couple of key battles around the grid as we look at Keith Dempsey now. He's in 4th place in the championship, if memory serves me correctly. He's 5th place in the championship, Keith Dempsey. At the moment, he's down 6 places, had a rough start of things, and there's a lot of guys down there. I've been thinking Dave Maguire particularly, who lost an awful lot of places. But as I was saying, there's battles all over. There's battles for first and of course the podium places, but there's also, let's remember, in this Heat 1 a battle for 15th place, because we have a reverse grid for the feature race and 15 becomes 1 for the feature race. That is a key battle, as we see. It looks like Rowan Doherty is kind of jumping in and out there, as we see another incident between 12 and 26. Hopefully Race Control will just clarify some of those numbers for us so we can get an idea of who is in and who is out and who is struggling. And who is being a naughty boy, who will be on the naughty step. Wayne Douglas in 10th position, occupying the last of those, but Josh Malin, he's out in front. He's leading by 6 tenths, and he's kind of holding that gap reasonably steady. He was about 9 tenths of a second ahead of Alex Dunn, but Dunn making small inroads. You can just see that ticker if you look at your top left hand corner of the screen, just underneath Josh's name. That's going slightly up and down, and then there's a huge gap between Alex and Nicky Meredith. And as we saw in round 1 at Indianapolis, that draft makes a massive difference, especially here at Watkins Glen with plenty of straights. So if Josh and Alex can work together here, then perhaps they can secure a nice 1-2 finish. How likely that is, we don't know. We're not sure, but these two guys are know full well what they're doing. As Ronan Doherty now makes a move down the inside of Wayne Douglas. That's a nice move there from Ronan Doherty.
He just gets a little bit squirmy on the way out, so Wayne's going to come back.
Wayne's coming up around the outside. It looks like Rowan's going to have the inside line in that old McLaren Mercedes livery of around circa 1999-2000. I love that's like the golden era of Formula 1. For a lot of us, that was like the era that got us into Formula 1, really, with Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard in those cars. But Josh Malin, as we say, out in front. And as I was saying, Josh had a bit of an incident in Bathurst over the weekend, where we had a great running, actually, just to toot our own horn there for a second. But Josh had a bit of an incident and saw himself off and actually featured in compilations. I think he'll have work to do, but Alex now trying down the inside. I was hoping that we might stay with that, and I think Josh is going to keep ahead of Alex. And I was saying that these two guys might work together and pull away. If they keep battling like this, it would allow Nicky Meredith the chance to get back in. And we've seen it more than once now in this series, even in this series, first and second taking each other out. So Alex will have to be careful here. Certainly his racecraft and his decision making seems to have improved race upon race, but he is going very aggressively down the inside there, and Josh has no option but to try and give him space. He does manage to hold it around the outside though. This is fairly aggressive stuff from Alex Dunn.
It is. It's great racing, and he's showing why he was given that place on that team with Charlie Eastwood. He's blisteringly quick, and he's super quick in these cars. But as you said, he just had some unfortunate incidents that he got caught up in that's probably holding back a little bit in the championship. But of course, he's right up there, and a win here would do him no harm at all in terms of stretching his points tally in the iDMC. This is great racing.
Yeah, this is absolutely brilliant. 5 points is the gap between Alex Dunn and second place Dave Maguire. Now, Dave Maguire had an incident earlier on, so Alex is sure to make spots here. Josh is weaving, which is interesting. That is against the rule book, of course, in the championship. Be interested to see if our stewards, Sean McGinley and Rob King, look at that. I don't think there was any real... we saw an incident of that late on in the feature race 2 weeks ago at Virginia International, but the stewards decided there wasn't quite enough in it to warrant any real action, and it seems like Josh is pulling away again from Alex. And as we were saying about Bathurst, all the talk this week with Bathurst has been about Max Verstappen and his incredible feat, and Alex is quite similar to Max. It's a case of he has the raw speed, but it's just about when to apply it, when to take those gaps, when to make those decisions. And of course, as a young man, I think he's only 14 or 15, Alex, and he's already had his first year of senior karting last year under the watchful eyes of his father Noel. And to be fair, there's nobody better to try and instruct you along, is there, Niall, than Noel Dunn?
No, and just while we're saying that, like, it is all about these two guys, and like Josh Malin as well. This is great racing. But for anyone who's watching and tuning in and wondering how do I get my hands on this SIMUCUBE Pro, it's as simple as this. Just let us know either in the comments below or in any of our social streams across Instagram, whatever it is, Twitter. Just let us know who you think the driver of this race will be, and we'll put your name into the hat at the end of the season. We'll pull it out with one lucky winner winning that SIMUCUBE Pro. And you couldn't look much further than these two right now, Kevin, because it's just a great ding-dong battle going on. I'll get that out.
Yes, smashing battle. No, we got there in the end. It's alright. A smashing battle between those two as we just keep an eye on Kevin Shine, and an interesting battle between him as well and Peter Dempsey. Of course, as I say, 15th place will start on pole for the feature race. Thanks to SIMUCUBE as well, Digital-Motorsports.com, Ireland's only official OEM partner, of course, and they supply both fully built simulators using SIMUCUBE technology. So that wheelbase pro's worth over $1,000. So it's well worth getting, as even Rob King said, a carrier pigeon in to the boys will do. Any way you like, of course. And there are other ways. If you're not so inclined in commenting, you can follow Digital Motorsports on Instagram as well, which has news on new products and competitions.
Alex is closed right in onto the back of Josh Malin here, and a little bit squirmy coming through.
Yeah, just a little bit wide there, especially exiting that bus stop. It looked like Alex just kind of got a half a tyre on the grass and had to ease off on the throttle a little bit, and that gap now is up to 4/10 again. It's amazing how it can ebb and flow, isn't it? Now just one slight mistake, one fraction of an inch onto the grass, and all of a sudden you've lost yourself 3 or 4 tenths, and you're almost completely resetting yourself again, because it does take a lap or a lap and a half to kind of set yourself up, and it seems like Alex likes that area. As we're coming up on lap traffic now, Josh Malin, that's Tony Stack you see ahead of you, but he is in 23rd place, not first place. That's currently occupied by Josh Malin, the man who is already third in this championship. Is only 6 points behind Alex Dunn, so a win here would see him just a point behind. Am I right to know it would actually, I think it's a 10-point gap between first and second place for points. So that would actually, a win here would see Josh Malin into the lead, albeit temporarily, because we do have the feature race coming up. But there you go, gap now down to 6/10 of a second.
I was just saying, the last time you come around, you get that wall, a little bit of a tap coming through. He came down onto the start-finish straight. He's fallen a little bit back, and as you were saying, he was right up onto the back of him. I'm just wondering, is he struggling a little bit with the car now as we come into the last 2 laps of the race?
He's certainly fallen away, but that gap is, again, you see, it was 6 tenths where I was holding it, but now we're down to 4 tenths here and dropping quite rapidly. So Alex, obviously, it's interesting to see these two guys. Some are quick in some areas, some are quicker in other areas, and Alex now has it down to 3 tenths. So he seems to be making up a huge amount of distance here, and then he's trying to make the move through the bus stop, but he just can't quite get it done through the bus stop, and then Josh comes out again, although Josh did dip a tyre there into the right-hand side, but he still is pulling away from Alex Dunn. I think if I was Alex, to be honest, you know, at a certain, maybe this is just young competitive racer in me, but there's a certain level. Oh, Josh has just taken the lead. I was just going to say that must have made a mistake, Josh. Or sorry, Josh is in the lead. I completely got confused there. I thought I was taking the lead. I saw a swap there at the top of the leaderboard.
I think the cameraman just jumped to somewhere else on top of it.
Yeah,
I think it was Wayne Douglas and Ronan Doherty. But let's stick with this, because now this is the close with that back marker of Tony Sack out of the way. That has allowed Alex to close back up, and this is close as he's been. So let's see, just with that theory you had of coming in through this last section of the track and seeing how does Josh just seems to be able to pull that little bit away at this section, and then it's all down to Alex to pull it back in.
Going through turn number 11 here and back onto the front straight.
Really does. He just kisses that tar wall and comes out. But here we go, this weaving again. So our stewards have been non-stop for this whole race, but they will be looking at that. But it was said in driver's briefing one time over, one time back. Johnny McMullen, of course, is the driver's rep for this, so he might be getting some work after this race from the drivers to look at some of those incidents. But let's just go back with Josh Mann. This time he's managed to pull it out, Kevin.
Yeah, and he's only one more lap after this to survive. So if he can keep it clean through here, we're going through the up onto the back straight now and towards the bus stop here. We're normally on the shorter course. He would hang a right and keep going. He's got a bit squirrely there, as you say, through the chicane, but I think he's done enough to hold off Alex Dunn. It's 3/10 in it and rising slowly. And do keep an eye as well, because Dave Maguire has just gone into 15th place there ahead of Kevin Shine, which means that he will start in P1 for the feature race, which obviously is going to be a massive help to him, Dave, because he's been hugely competitive, and only for that early instant in the first couple of corners, he would have been up with these guys battling up the front. Alex started P1. He's down into second place. He's going to try and see if we can make a move, and more weaving again from Josh Malin, so he's going to have to cut that out. Josh, I know it's very tempting given the tow on these cars, but yeah, you have to remember the championship rules, and as you say, it will be interesting to see if Sean McGinley and Rob King penalising him for that.
Will be interested to have a look at that weaving that is going on by Josh, because it's been nearly every lap now, so that's, I'm sure, something they will look at. But cameraman deciding to stick with this battle as we head into the penultimate lap. So white flag this time around. Just watch it. He's not in at that time, but he's getting so close to that wall every lap around. I'm just wondering, has he picked up a bit of damage on that car? So that's Josh.
Josh in P1 now. We take it. We're following the leader, number 99, Josh Malin, into the last lap, and you see it's like kiss across the grass there. That seems to be the line they enjoy taking. 4/10 in it now. Alex has been pushing and pushing and pushing. He's gotten almost close enough to get the move done. He just hasn't quite got enough purchase. He hasn't got the inside line to quite get the move done. Will he get it done now? The gap's down to 2/10. Down now to 1.5 tenths. Can Alex get it done in the bus stop? Makes a move left, makes a move right. It looks like Josh is going to cover that off. He's just going to plant his USF2000 right in the middle of the track and not give Alex a chance through. Now we come around the bend here into the chute. This is turn 6 now. They're going through of 11. So just 5 more corners that Josh Malin and a few straights has to hang on. That gap's gone back up to 4/10. It looks like Josh has the beating of Alex through this section. As we say, Alex seems a lot quicker through the section 1 as we get towards the back straight, and then Josh seems to be able to pull away. So from here, Josh knows all he has to do is keep it safe, and he'll have another win in the iDMC. He'll be the first repeat winner of this series, having of course won in the round 1 of the Virginia International Speedway last week. Heat 1. He's set to take Heat 1 here now. It's 4/10 between them as we go through. Where are we now on the map? I think we're going through down the chute now. I think we are in here in Watkins Glen International Boot track that we're using here. 2 more corners left now. Alex still pushing, but just not enough, as Josh Malin takes the final turn on onto the main straight, and he does enough. Josh Malin, the winner of Heat 1 here, as he continues the weaving, unofficially the winner of Heat 1, I hasten to add, at this round 5 of the iDMC Winter Series. Alex Dunn taking second place from P1 provisionally, then Nicky Meredith in third. A nice little gaggle there down the backsies. Now Murray finished 4th, Michael Devaney 5th, Robert Moore 6th, Arias Yamanta 7th, Johnny McMullen 8th, Wayne Douglas looks like he's going to come in at 9th, Rory O'Shea 10th, Ronan Doherty 11th, Keith Dempsey. It looks like it's pretty much a procession from here. But interestingly, Dave Maguire finishing 14th, so he's managed to battle back to 14th as Dave Maguire. Peter Dempsey, Keith Dempsey, Dave Maguire, all starting near the front of the grid for this feature race, and all within the top 5 of this championship. Well, not now, but we're in the top 5 going into this round. Now, I suppose, look at attritional first couple of laps, and then a case of a really exciting battle for the lead. But I suppose, can we expect it to be a little bit safer? Maybe people taking a little bit easier in the feature race, or do you expect to see just as much attrition?
What I'll say is, as we just watched Harry McGovern coming on line as well with the back wing of that car dangling off. In the real world, there'd be a lot of mechanics running around to get that cowling back onto the car. But, no, like we could see there in the first race just how close these drivers can race, and what an opening 2 laps we had of the heat race there. I couldn't call a prediction on that. Great win in the end by Josh. Alex was pushing hard, but yeah, looking back down, you've kind of got Keith, Peter, Dave Maguire, Jason Smith. It's going to be an interesting heat race, and you certainly don't want to go anywhere. We just see the results.
Certainly not. Your results of Heat 1 here, the Digital Motorsports, the Digital-Motorsports.com iDMC Winter Series in association with Motorsport Ireland. Josh Mayland taking the win by 4/10 from Alex Dunn, who started pole. Nicky Meredith in 3rd, and Al Murray in 4th, having recovered. Michael Devaney in 5th. Rob Moore took 6th place. Arias Humanta 7th. Johnny McMullen 8th. Wayne Douglas 9th. And Murray O'Shea rounds off your top 10. Then it gets interesting because, of course, we do have 15th starts first, and it works its way backwards. So Ronan Doherty in 11th. Keith Dempsey in 12th, starting 4th in the feature race. Peter Dempsey brother, should I say, and we'll be talking about both of those in a second, as well as Dave Maguire, who finishes Peter 14. He was the championship roundabout the championship lead going into this. Jason Smith, who has finished 15th and will start P1 for the feature race. Then Kevin Shine, Fabrizio Rivera, Brian McManus, 2 of those involved in an incident halfway through the race. Jonathan Brown in 19th. Harry McGovern finishing last over the line. But, of course, we had a couple that pulled out before then. Sean McGovern, David Burtis, Kevin Lacey, and Tony Stack. But now we might go have a quick look through that car 90, as we say, under investigation post-race. That is Josh Mayland. So the leader is under investigation post-race for weaving. We hope... Yeah, we did anticipate the stewards, Rob King and Sean McGinley, to have a look at that. Hopefully they'll post into us and let us know what the result of that will be, because that could make a massive difference to the championship standings. But as we wait for the feature race now, you might just take us a little bit through again that Team Ireland eDMC team coming up for this Cup of Nations, because it is a really, really exciting team that we have. As we say, I think that pairing, that number 1 pairing of Charlie Eastwood and Alex Dunn, is really exciting for a young man like Alex, only 15, to race with the likes of Charlie, who himself has had a really decorated career as a factory driver with Aston Martin, has already taken the Le Mans win, and just out at the back of the Asian Le Mans series. That's a really, really exciting car. What a chance for Alex to have Charlie as a teammate.
Absolutely, yeah, and like we can see why Alex is on that team, and hopefully Charlie can make it when we get back to that. But as well, just while we're talking about that, let's take a quick chance to thank some of our sponsors here as well, and we'll come back to that. But we're just going to jump over to a quick video from SIMUCUBE.
They say that perfection doesn't exist in this game. Most players just don't have it in them. But those who dare to seek it might catch excellence. And that sounds perfect to me. So, I'm done playing. Let's drive.
Thanks to our sponsor SIMUCUBE, and fair play to them. They managed to coax one half of Daft Punk out of retirement for that advertisement, which was great. But of course, if you do want some of their gear, and it is the gear that Digital Motorsports use for their renowned sim rigs, do remember that there is a SIMUCUBE Pro base up for grabs, over €1,000 worth of sim equipment, up for absolutely nout. All you need to do is comment on your driver, who you think is driver of the day, either on the video, you can comment after, you can leave a live chat, you can message us. As I say, send post if you like. Do remember to include something nice with it, might help your chances. But before we go back to the racing, a quick look. Oh, it's gone again. I was going to take you through the championship standings, but Alex Dunn leading now with 140 points. 5 points at the moment ahead, I think, of Josh Malin as we line up now for this
coming
feature
in
race.
that were put up before the heat race, so that's probably
okay. Those are the old standings, provisional standings. Before we get started, I also just want to say as well, thanks to our sponsors, SimTag, for their hydraulic pedals. They are the best kind of pedals available on the market, of course, and they're in partnership with Digital-Motorsports. But we do get ready for race number 2 of tonight, the feature race, and we are go here at Watkins Glen. Jason Smith leads us out already. Peter Dempsey getting in ahead. Dave Maguire. He had a poor start. Dave Maguire, he's gone down from 2nd down to 4th as they go barreling in to the first turn, and it looks like Jason Smith's going to hold on to first place. Can he? Can Peter Dempsey make it around the outside? Peter's just about made it around the outside in the exact same way that we saw in the opening race, but Jason's coming back at him. Can Peter hold it in the inside here? Yes, he can. Bad start again for Harry McGovern. He's down to 19th, and Nicky Meredith having an incident sees him down to a 13th position. Is back up to 12th, so it must just be a battle for a place. We're still 3 wide almost now, going down the main straight in towards the bus stop. 3 is going to have to become 1, and it's Jason Smith who's the bravest of all to take that first position. Peter Dempsey in behind him, then followed by Keith. Of course, the 2 of those will represent Ireland in the 1 team in the upcoming eDMC series that we were talking about. Then number 4, Dave Maguire. He started P2, falling back 2 places. Ronan Darley, Jantlin, as it looks like Dempsey is going to go for a move around the outside. I think he's going to hold off a little bit here, but a fairly clean start. Nobody majorly having an issue. Jason Smith and Peter Dempsey still battling for position. Smith's going to hold it around the inside, as we see now Alex Dunn making his way up through the field. He's in 12th already, having finished P1 in the race. Josh Malin in 14th, and 2 of those will be pursuing each other hotly, no doubt. You see a bit of jostling for position here. Josh Malin down the inside.
Go back up the front, like this. You were asking me, like, what did I think about was going to happen with this race? This is exactly what we wanted, wasn't it, Kevin?
Absolutely. Like, this is, and it's very, very difficult. So much more difficult than when you're physically there. As we see an incident with Harry McGovern and Fabrizio Rivera, both those going down. But it is so difficult in iRacing. Oh, a huge incident that I was just saying about it. I managed to keep it clean. Rory O'Shea now, Murray off. It looked like a gaggle of cars going off there at the back. There's a few in the pits already. Nicky Meredith has dropped all the way down. Fabrizio Rivera in the pit as well. Johnny McMullen into 6th. But as you say, it's so difficult, especially in these open wheel cars, because they're so susceptible. You can't really rub and race in them in the same way that we saw last year that you could do in the M8 and the M4s and the M8 championships. That you just can't really go wheel to wheel.
So we've got Jason Smith with Peter Dempsey and Keith Dempsey from behind. We just can get the cameras, get out board. We can. Talk us through this one, Kevin. This is
3 wide going into the bus stop again. It looks like Keith Dempsey's got the line. He has Peter Dempsey, should I say, got the line, and Keith not quite getting that corner right and pushing back Jason Smith, and so kind of inadvertently helping his brother there. Did Keith in 2nd place, but as we say, that's the 2nd time 3 has become 1 into those corners, and I'm very, very impressed by how these guys have managed to keep it together. As David Maguire's going for a little nibble there from David Maguire down the inside. Jason Smith just reminded that he's there. That's a great shot. Fair play to our cameraman for that one. That was a lovely shot as they go through there. I am absolutely rubbish when it comes to Watkins Glen, because I only just got it recently, so I don't really know my way around the track. So apologies to those you purists who love your IMSA racing and your IndyCar racing and know this place off the back of your hand. You can feel free to scream the corner names at me at the monitor if I get it wrong. Alex Dunn now all the way up into 10th again already. Alex making massive move, and he's followed by Josh Malin, of course, as well. Josh up as well with him, so Alex absolutely flying at the moment, and he is the man in form. Like, there is absolutely no doubt about it. Made an impression, of course, in the charity race that we had at Brands Hatch just before the new year, but it really managed to put it all together this year, and I suppose that karting experience is definitely holding towards him, especially in these USF2000s, because they're kind of the graduated step up from there. So Peter Dempsey in the lead, followed closely by brother Keith. These two won't give each other an inch, I can tell you that much for nothing. Dave Maguire now has dropped him down. He's had a big incident there. Dave Maguire and cars 30 and 31 under investigation. We're still waiting for the final official confirmed results from Heat 1, of course, because of the weaving from Josh Malin that stopped Alex Dunn getting a toe. And speaking of toes, it looks like Keith Dempsey's got that off brother Peter. Peter's going to have the inside line. There's a gaggle going behind them as well into this bus stop, and this seems to be where all the action is happening. Though all of those managing to make it through cleanly enough. Fair play to them, as Keith now leads from Peter Dempsey. Then Jason Smith, he was in the lead for quite a long time, was Jason Smith to begin with. Then Johnny McMullen up a good few places in 4th place, Wayne Douglas in 5th, Ronan Darby in 6th, Darius Fermantis in 7th. David Maguire then dropping down. He's had a bad week of it, as David Maguire dropped down in the heat and dropped down in the feature race as well. As we see a move, Wayne Douglas, I think, making up a play. Oh no, it's Wayne Douglas being featured, should I say here. So that green over the overlay always gets me. But yeah, Wayne Douglas in 5th place. He'll be happy enough with that, where he is at the moment. He's had his sights set on Johnny McMullen, but about 3/10 behind him. Ronan Darby being overtaken there by Arias Hernandez, who, as I'm going to say, because Jack isn't here, but Jack, every time Arias Hernandez, yes, indeed, he does use hand controls, and yes, it does every single time blow my mind, but I know that Jack likes to get that out there, so I thought I'd put that out there into the universe.
I think that's Arturus, is it?
It's Arturus, not Arias. My apologies.
Alex Dunn making his way up to 9th as well. There's just no end to the racing here. The poor cameraman's finding it very hard. Dave Maguire will stick with these 3.
Yeah, Dave is prattling off these 3. I think Dave might have had a touch off the wall through that final corner.
I think I spotted that too, yeah.
Together. And as you say, Niall, it's like that's happening so often. They're getting so close to that tyre barrier, and it really is a case of risk versus reward. But right up at Dave's chuff is Alex Dunn. And these are 2 that are battling quite a lot for the top of the leaderboard. As Wayne Douglas, is he going to get that move stick on Johnny McMullen? They go in towards the as we hear an update from the okay, sorry, I'm going to read this out for you. So in the opening heat race, car number 90, that is Josh Malin. He was investigated for weaving. The defensive move per corner is permitted. Breaking the toe is also permitted. That is something I didn't know. Just in weaving in terms of blocking, obviously, but not for breaking the toe. No further action. Josh Malin has officially taken heat 1. Who will take the feature? Keith, this man is in the pole position as it stands. He's up 3 places from where he began, and he's running pretty quick laps. His name is Keith Dempsey, and he's a man, I suppose, now who we're not used to seeing. Like we said, this last championship, which I feel I put in the case of death in him, because the 2 championships I commentated thus far, he hasn't been leading, but he's doing so. He's normally up there, isn't he, Keith? Normally he's almost leading. It's normally Keith versus everybody else, but at the moment the last 2 championships he's been finding that the competition is very strong.
He's loving it, isn't he? Like this what Pete wants, and no better person to be hunting him down than brother Peter. It's interesting to see how much the rest of this grid has I would say closed in on where Keith is, and that's exactly what he wanted. It just shows. I wouldn't say necessarily Keith's gone off form. I just say that the quality of the grid has become sensational. It's the only word I can put on it, and it's why this series has become so popular. Not to be blowing our own trumpets at it, but it is an incredibly. If you go back to Arias, we didn't want that.
Arias Hernandez, and I tried to see who it was. It was a Johnny McMullen he was involved in, but Arias was sent to space there, sandwiched in between a car and the barrier, and there was only one way that was going to end for Arias, and we obviously couldn't see quite how that built up into it. I'm sure our race stewards will be looking at it as Peter Dempsey continues to lead. Yeah, I think it was Johnny McMullen involved.
Actually been a change at the front as we went back to that, and we were saying Keith Dempsey as it is. There's been a change, so it's Peter Dempsey up front now from Keith Dempsey, and I'm not sure if that's a bit of strategy between the 2 brothers, just trying to work the race, but that's changed almost to a half second. It's surprising how much that
I'm very surprised. I'm very, very quickly. I actually didn't even notice. It's a problem having the 2 guys up the front with the same name. Is that you see a Dempsey up front and you just think, oh yeah, there's Dempsey and a Dempsey, and the same car, same team, and you kind of forget that actually it's 2 very different lads racing. Josh Maynard's up into 10th, but look at Alex Dunn. Alex Dunn up into 5th position.
I know.
He's having an absolutely stormy week of it. Oh, there's a contact behind him. Who was it behind Alex Dunn? I'm trying to see. It wasn't Rob Moore. It was Rob Moore. who had that squirrely instant out the backside of that corner. Now we're focusing on Brian McManus, who was 2 seconds behind Dave Maguire, and another train of cars coming behind him as they cross for the leaders. I don't even know what lap we're on. Is there a chance we can get a lap time? We completely forgot where we are in the race because all this is going on.
Second, but let's not put the muckers on Sean McGovern here as well, because last race we were saying he's going so well, and he is going well here. But let's see if we can get the lap times up. But out in front, as we just got back, Wayne Douglas. We haven't been covering too much of Wayne Douglas, so we say that we're getting a helicopter shot. Wayne Douglas.
I like those heli shots. Yeah, Wayne Douglas going really, really well. I thought I saw he had dropped out, and then he seemed to pop back up again. So I'm not sure if that was just a mistake from the live timing that we had in front of us. But about those helicopter shots, people, there seems to be some sort of hatred in them for iRace in the iRacing service. Like, you never ever see them on only ever for like grid starts and stuff. I actually think they're quite cool. Like, I actually quite like them. I mean, you see them all the time in real broadcasting. There you go. It's been absolutely overtaking Keith Lacey. This is a great spotting camera as well, just in case anybody ever needs to spot somebody. These are great cameras for spotting. Speed MC barreling down. He's 6 tenths ahead of brother Keith, and I'm not sure whether Keith made a mistake there. I don't think that was tactics, because Peter's made a bit of a lead here, and I can't see how either of them have pulled away from Jason Smith in third, who's sticking in there. Josh Malin now down in 12th position. He hasn't quite managed to make the same amount of ground as Alex Dunn, and for Josh, this is a frustrating one, really, I suppose, for him to be down in 12th. He knows he needs to make time up because he's so many guys racing for him in the championship, as the collision between cars number 2 and 4 has been deemed a racing incident. So the racing gods are smiling on those two. So no further action given. Alex Dunn in 4th position.
Niall Murray out, look at that. So that's Niall Murray and Harry McGovern out. So that'll certainly set Niall back in his championship hunt. As we go back to the front, great cameras here again. But this is Peter Dempsey from Keith Dempsey. Oh, look at that, there's your shot now.
There's the shot. There's the money shot as Peter down. You can just see how close. What's actually interesting about that shot is not how close Peter and Keith are, but how much of a gap there is between the two of them and Jason Smith. There's absolute acres between Keith and Jason at this point, and the two of them, like, it doesn't look like that much there, but when you look at the overhead shot, you just get a good appreciation of how much what 1.4 seconds actually looks like on Watkins Glen here, as we're keeping an eye on Sean McGovern. He's up 11 places, and I put the kibosh on him last time, so I will not say anything, because if I do it twice, he probably won't ever come for an interview. But to be fair to him, he's 11th place, challenging now. Ronan Darley down the inside, just making sure that he knows that he's there, showing him in his mirrors, but be interested to see whether he makes a move now down as we head on. We can't have a huge amount left in this feature race. I'm waiting for the graphics guy to give me the lap times, because I'm all over the place here in terms of laps. I'm trying to get it on the live timing, trying to get it on the thing. We're coming into our 7th lap here at the iDMC Winter Championship in association with Motorsport Ireland. Thanks again to our sponsors SIMUCUBE, Shoreway and SimTag as well for their continued partnership. And do remember, get your driver of the day in those comments, whether it's in the live video or afterwards. You can send it by post. Once the 5-kilometer restrictions are lifted, you can come up and deliver it by hand if you like, if you want. But do get it in, because it could potentially be worth over €1,000 worth of sim gear to you. A SimCube Pro wheelbase. Let's get those words mixed up. You think it would be easy at this point after a couple of rounds of saying it, but no, I always manage to find a way of fouling it up. But we're back on track. Peter leading from brother Keith, very, very close here. 8 out of 15 laps completed, so we're around just over halfway through this feature race. The win in the opening race, the Heat 1, was taken by Josh Malin ahead of Alex Dunn, who is sniffing there again. He is just behind Jason Smith in 4th place, but Peter Dempsey is in the lead here. Peter and Keith both, of course, up near the top of the iDMC Championship going into this week. They were in 4th and 5th respectively, Peter and Keith, so it'll be interesting to see if they can make up further ground there.
We're just being shown the sector times there as well as you were saying that, and I'm just thinking there's very little in this. I'm surprised. I don't know what happened to Keith. We go back to Alex Dunn, and you're talking about driver of the race. I'm not trying to influence that, but Alex Dunn's now battling for third place with Jason Smith.
What a drive from Alex Dunn. And we were talking about Niall Murray last week, should I say, and his amazing drive in the feature race. Alex is almost repeating the feat. If he can get past Jason, and I suppose it's only a matter of time, because you can see the we're looking at the battle between Wade Douglas and Alex Dunn. But actually, if the cameraman could flick forward the car to Jason Smith, we could have a look at the lap times between Smith and Dunn. And as you can see here, Alex Dunn is quicker through sector 2 and sector 3, but actually surprisingly enough slower through the other 3 sectors. I'm a little bit surprised by that, I have to say.
And drivers, of course, were asking during that period of turn 1 about how much of that track they could take, and they were told they could take as much as they wanted once they didn't get too many off tracks. And I'm just wondering, sector 15, we'll stick here and I'll let you talk us through this one. Jason's mate, Alex Dunn, Alex closing right in.
Alex's favourite spot as well, and we saw him try and make the move on Josh Main in the opening race. Can he get it done here? Jason does have the inside line, but Alex has the track position. Jason's coming back on around the inside, but Alex makes it stick, and that is a textbook example of how to gain a place in the bus stop. No move, not an inch given by either, and I'm sure Jason will have a go back at Alex again. He's coming around the outside here now, going through the where's my map? I've lost my map. It's all gone. The outer loop in towards the chute. As I wish I hadn't. If I had a smidgen of as much composure as Alex Dunn showed through that bus stop when I commentate, I can tell you, we'd already be commentating on the major. I'd be over in America commentating on the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. I'll tell you that much. Peter Dempsey leads from Keith, 5 seconds now the difference. That gap has gone up since we last joined those two. Alex Dunn there, Alex Dunn 2.7 seconds behind, so you'd imagine it would take something special for him to get back in it, but that's not to say that can't be done given how he's driven thus far this entire evening. We're on board now with Josh Malin, and I suppose
he's got issues. He's up 4 places, but he's fallen back as we look just up ahead. Sean McGovern it is, up to 9th place now in this gaggle of cars. Sean going really, really well. That's a great drive. And then just further up ahead is Brian McManus up 11 places. Just to remind everyone, I think at the last race, as we'll go through our leaders now, I think, am I correct in saying Niall Murray passed 24 cars in the last race? If I'm not mistaken.
Something ridiculous. Anyway, no, like he came from down the back of the grid to take second place, I think, in the last race.
I'd have to confirm that, but
it was a stunning performance, but a couple of really, really good ones. I think that could potentially be the drive of the championship. Never mind the drive of the night, but Alex Dunn doing a brilliant job here in third place. That gap is still at around 2.8, 2.9 seconds, so he's going to have to get a bit of a clip if he's to catch these two. But I suppose for Peter and Keith, it kind of works because Peter's taking the lead, Keith has the draft, and we know how strong the draft is here. They still have 5 laps left, so perhaps some fireworks between the two brothers in the last lap, but I wouldn't expect to see anything too risky between either of them before we get to that point.
Let's see if we can pull up the sector times. When I'm just looking at it here, I think Keith's starting to put the pressure on to Peter and close that gap. He's got it down to 0.3 now, so I'll let you talk us through this as they come in to lap 11 down the back sector of this track. Both of them are neck and neck. Let's just see as they come through. It just shows how much in the last race when we were watching that, actually, as I'm seeing it, how much of that wall Alex Dunn was taking. But talk us through this one, Kevin.
Yeah, so cars number 34 leads us. That is Peter Dempsey. Car number 13 is Keith. He's behind him. He's in second place. As we say, those cars taking as much as they can out of that exit of T1, and that was what they were told to do. They were saying take as much as you want. Once you don't get too many off tracks, you're all right. Then Alex Dunn is 2.8 seconds behind, and we see Keith making that gap again. It's down now. Keith is going to go for a move down the outside into the bus stop. Can Keith, or will Keith? No, he doesn't. I was going to say, will Keith hold him off? He doesn't. Or sorry, will Peter hold him off, should I say? He doesn't. He slots in behind Keith, who retakes the lead. I'm not sure why he ended up out of the lead in the first place, Keith. He must have had an issue, but Peter certainly not battling him too hard. And I'm not sure, I don't know if that was team orders or just more a case of an understanding between teammates that Keith just had that speed. It just goes to show you that
an exact change that we had when we were looking back at that incident and where the I think on lap 5 where the change of lead was. It was almost looked a little bit too easy. Not to say there's nothing going on there, but if, as you were saying, if you blinked, you were kind of missing it because the cars are so alike and the driving styles are so alike between Keith and Peter. It's and as I say that, we get a great shot there of the difference in colours between the yellow and the green helmets of the cars, car number 13 and car number 34. But I just wonder, are they working together too? Because Alex is closing in behind. Look at that.
Yeah, Alex, now the gap down to 2.4 from around 2.8 or 2.9, but it does seem like there's a huge amount of tow. Like, you're pretty much flat out going through, once you get out of T2, you're flat out going through T3, T4, and then pretty much down the back straight towards the bus stop. So if you're in tow, you're making up a huge amount of time, and it's very, very difficult, even if you do have the inside line of that bus stop. As we saw there, like, Keith was ahead of Peter well before the bus stop, well at time to slot in the two of them. Now, I wonder was that what happened anyway? But when we looked at that move on Jason Smith, I think it was Keith to begin with on Jason Smith earlier on in this race, as we see once again that tow, like that tow going all the way down there seems to make a massive difference as Peter retakes the lead from Keith. So is it just going to be a case of these two swapping through the bus stop, and basically whoever ends up, it's a case of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, whoever ends up at the end of it on finishing first, because
I think you're
that
right.
seems to be the only overtaking spot here at the moment.
They're not blocking each other because they're all the time watching this man coming up behind young Alex Dunn. So I think they are working together and they're just not making life difficult for each other with that tow to keep tic-tacking through these laps with 3 to go, because Alex is absolutely flying.
Yeah, Alex is flying, and what you got to think as well is that if Dave Maguire has had a bad night of it, we have Josh Malin who's down in 12th place. So for these two guys, of course, Alex Dunn is a threat. But for Peter and Keith, if they can both keep their nose clean and finish 1 and 2, then that's still making up a massive amount on a lot of other guys around this championship, as Josh now slots into 11th ahead of Tony Stack. But for Peter and Keith, of course, Alex Dunn, if they can keep Alex at bay, then a 1-2 for those is a good result here. And I suppose we're talking, we still have another 3 rounds left of this, or 3 venues, should I say, another 6 rounds technically left of this iDMC championship. So if we've still got to go to Long Beach, Laguna Seca, and Montreal before we finish. So plenty of time to battle each other. I suppose at this point it's just a case of trying to make as much ends meet as they can.
So that's a mistake by Peter, so that's going to allow Keith to capitalise. That's right on board with Keith Dempsey now.
We can see that tow now, but just look like they're flat out all the way down through that section, all the way into the bus stop, and for what was 0.4 of a second is now a comfortable look. That's comfy. Like, that's an easy pass well before you make it to the bus stop. It just shows you the impact of the tow. We saw it in Indianapolis around but I wasn't expecting to see it play as much of or have as much of an impact as I had here at Watkins Glen, I have to say now.
Just going back to Rory Shea here. See, this Rory Shea and Tony Stack, I think it's the same. Yeah, at this stage of the race,
same thing. It's just a tow.
Past each other, almost like they have DRS, isn't it? Let's go back up to actually Robert Moore, I think, and Brian McManus and Sean McGovern here. Sean McGovern up to 9th place. Brian McManus falling back down in this group. So that was a little bit wider, just a different line. So there's action all over the place. We come to the closing stages of this race with just under 2 laps to go. We'll go back up the front because now it is Keith Dempsey fending off brother Peter Dempsey. And talking through this one, Kevin.
Yeah, Keith ahead of Peter. We've 2 laps left here at Watkins Glen, and as we say, it seems to be that bus stop is where all the action is happening. Now, I wouldn't expect to see a huge amount being done here as we go over the line, and this will be our penultimate lap here on round 6 of the iDMC Winter Series in association with Motorsport Ireland and Digital-Motorsports.com. Peter being led by Keith at the moment. You see the lap times there. Keith 148 flat, Peter about 7/10 behind that. Of course, he made a mistake on the opening turn of the last lap, which allowed Keith get by. Then Alex Dunn, he's made about a second in the last 6 or 7 laps. Probably not enough to see him bat with these two. As we see Peter Dempsey now, he's going to coast into the lead here. As we see, that's such a nice shot. I love that shot. But you just see the difference in speed. And like Peter, okay, so Keith is obviously relenting a little bit and allowing Peter, should I say,
this race is really kicking off between Brian McManus, Robert Moore, and Sean McGovern. Sean McGovern up to 8. Ding dong. Robert's able to hold him off. That's very tight through there, and that just shows you that it's not as straightforward through that bus stop as you would think. But let's go back up to our leaders again.
Yeah, and that's what I was just about to say, and I'm glad that we pulled to that, because that's the first time I think we've seen really some ferocious side by side racing through that bus stop between Sean McGovern and Rob Moore.
You're getting all your helicopter shots now, so that's Sean back down to 9th place. He's having a great race with Robert Moore here, and all the time this is working to Brian McManus' favour, who's just pulling off. He's got a second and a half up the road now, and then he's not closing in the back of Dave Maguire. But this will be interesting for the championship as we go back to our leaders. I just cut off there as Sean McGovern made that move, but back up front, 0.2 between Peter and Keith Dempsey here.
Yeah, 0.2 going over the line. So let's have a look here now. So Peter's leading by about 0.2. I can't. The quality's got very bad for me at the moment. So, but it looks like Keith is going to go into the lead. So is that the way they're going to line up, or is Keith allowing Peter to overtake him into the bus stop? Alex Dunn now. The gap has gone way down to Alex Dunn. Or is that a lap car after overtaking? Yes, it is lap car after overtaking. My apologies. There's 9/10 in it between those two. So will Peter now go for the move on Keith? That is the question.
They've all slowed down. So we've got it wrong. Sorry, our laps went wrong. That is the end of the race. That was a checkered flag race. So as they were coming over the line, I was looking at it. I was saying it was the same as you. My screen went a little bit blurred there, but we missed that. That's actually the checkered flag. It wasn't Alex Dunn closing in on the back of them. It was, in fact, Keith Dempsey over the line from Peter Dempsey with Alex Dunn in 3rd place. What a race from Alex. And then Jason Smith holding off Wayne Douglas, Dave Maguire with Brian McManus. So as we were looking at that battle between Robert Moore and Sean McGovern there, where our coverage went a little bit off, what we'd actually failed to see was that the white flag was being waved all around the track. So I'll hold myself accountable for that one.
I'd see. I was looking at the lap times and I saw the white flag, so I was expecting it to turn to a checkered. Our apologies for that. Keith Dempsey leading. Keith Dempsey taking the win here in round 6 of the iDMC Digital Motors or iDMC Pro Winter Season in association with Digital-Motorsports.com and Motorsport Ireland. I'm surprised that was that simple for Keith. He managed to get that toe ahead of Peter. I thought they were going to battle each other a little bit more, I'm not going to lie, into that last lap. Alex Dunn, a brilliant drive again. Dave Maguire up into 6th. That was a great result for him, in fairness, given the fact that he was struggling earlier on. But as we say, so it's Keith Dempsey who takes his 2nd win of the season. No, he doesn't actually. His 1st win of the season. My apologies. Brother Peter had a win, all right. But Keith Dempsey taking his 1st win of the season for Turn 3 Motorsport, ahead of brother Peter Dempsey. That's a 1-2 for the Dempsey brothers, who will be racing, of course, for Ireland in the eDMC Cup of Nations coming up. Alex Dunn in 3rd place, up 11 places from 14th where he began. Then Jason Smith in 4th, Wayne Douglas in 5th, Dave Maguire in 6th, and good recovery from Dave Maguire because he dropped down the order. He was P2, dropped way back and managed to hold it in 6th. Brian McManus up 11 places to 7th. Sean McGovern up 13 places to 8th. Then Rob Moore in 9th. Jonathan Brown in 10th. Josh Malin up 4 places to finish in 11th. I'm not sure whether that's enough for Josh. I think he might be a bit disappointed from that, but I suppose the consolation is that he did take the win in race 1 here. So not a bad night work overall for Josh Malin. Tony Stack in 12th. Rory O'Shea in 3rd. Tony, just to say as well, up 12 places. Ronan Doherty in 14th. David Burtis in 15th. That was good for him. He had a DNF in the opening race. So that Kevin Shine in 16th, Michael Devaney in 17th, Fabrizio Rivera 18th, Arias Mantis 19th, and Nicky Meredith in 20th, rounding off the drivers who finished. Now, we don't have an updated championship standings for you yet, but Niall, your view on those 2 races, much less attritional in the second race. Oh, is this an updated championship points? I see before me.
I think it is. I think so.
Ooh.
These are provisional, of course, but that is Josh Malin there. This is going to raise a few eyebrows. But let's just have a look at these championship points here to see. So coming into this, where did Josh actually end up?
Josh. So Josh goes up 2 places in the championship standings. He was third into first, 184 points, 4 points ahead of Alex Dunn. And it's almost kind of cruel on Alex Dunn, isn't it? Because he started the night in first and 2 really good drives, particularly the second one, and still finds himself in dropping a place in the championship standings.
I think we'll have to query those results now afterwards. I think after last race as well, there was a couple of changes, but we're just going to give a quick shout out again to our sponsors and run some ads, and then we'll have some interviews with the drivers, so don't go away for that.
Are you looking to get involved in simulator racing? Here at Digital-Motorsports.com, we're a one-stop shop for all your sim racing needs, supplying wheels, pedals, shifters, handbrakes, monitors, virtual reality headsets, seats, chassis, fully built sim solutions and custom built PCs from all the top brands that you know and love. To find out more, visit Digital-Motorsports.com.
They say that perfection doesn't exist in this game. Most players just don't have it in them. But those who dare to seek it might catch excellence. And that sounds perfect to me. So, I'm done playing. Let's drive.
Yeah, what a prize that will be, and let's just have a look to see what that prize will be again. So, if you're watching this, just put in your driver of the race. I'm sure a lot of people will be giving a nod for that one for Alex Dunn, but Keith Dempsey, Peter Dempsey, the first, second as well in the feature race. We've got a couple of interviews coming up very soon now, and again, just before we do that, a huge shout out to our sponsors as always: Sureway Group, SIMUCUBE, SimTag. And of course, these races held in association with Motorsport Ireland. And let's just see who we've got here, Kevin, if you're with me there. We'll see.
Yep.
I think we'll take in Alex Dunn. Alex, are you there?
I'm here.
How are you? What a race that was. Talk us through it. 2 great races, but talk us through that heat race. That was an exceptional race for you.
Yeah, in race 1, obviously I had a good quali starting on pole. I got a bit of a bad jump off the line, but I still managed to stay in P2 after lap 1. And then from then on in, Josh was really consistent, drove away very well. But behind people here, it's very hard to drive in the dirty air. So every time I got close to him, I just understeered on the exit of the corner. So it was very hard to make a move. So I just settled for P2 at the end of the race. And then in race 2, there was a few collisions on lap 1, which I managed to be lucky enough to avoid. And then I just stayed consistent, trying to pick everybody off one by one. And then I got into P3, and I kind of knew if you have 2 brothers in P1 and 2, they weren't going to give each other too much hassle. So I kind of expected to stay where I was.
It was great racing, in fairness. Was there any stage that you thought you could have... We actually got it wrong in the commentary team. We were watching you, we hadn't realised the checkered flag come out. We're like, he's caught right in. But was there any stage you thought that you might been able to catch in on the back of them, or were you just managing your race at that time and just happy to take the podium?
No, I knew at the time that I was really consistent and I had really good pace. And even without slipstream, I think in 4 or 5 laps, I managed to catch them 1.5 seconds. So I hoped that if there was one more lap and a little bit of a battle, I could have had a chance. But now they just sat behind each other the whole race. But that's how it goes.
While we have you there as well, the Team Ireland has just been announced. The first, actually the second one. The first Team Ireland to go was, of course, with Keith Dempsey over to Rome back in 2018. But this is the first official team, Digital Team Ireland. Charlie Eastwood partnered with yourself. Of course, that's if Charlie can make it. He has I believe he's got some testing on that weekend, so it'll all be down to whether he's allowed to travel or not. But talk us through that. It must have been very exciting to get that email and to get that invitation to go represent your country. Yeah,
I think I was very happy when I got the email, when I received the email asking if I would like to participate. So, and then when I found out I got paired with Charlie Eastwood, that was pretty cool as well. So hopefully, if we can make it, I think we'll do well.
It'll be a rapid team, that's for sure. Well, look, thanks as always, Alex, and great racing. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thanks to?
I'd like to thank my mum, my dad, everybody who's been supporting me for all these 3 races on the live stream, and thanks to Digital Motorsport for hosting the championship.
You're more than welcome. We're delighted to have you, Alex, and hats off to you. It's great racing. I'm sure you're enjoying it, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the next round. So we'll let you off to go and unwind. As we'll see who will we bring in next, Kevin. I think we'll get in Josh Malin and let you talk to Josh Malin, the winner of Heat 1.
Josh, thanks a minute for joining us. Now, you are a man who is better known around the iRacing community, at least this weekend, for a video clip that appeared on a well-known compilation channel. But this tonight worked out a little bit better for you. Winner of Heat 1. I suppose Alex made a couple of moves in you there through the bus stop. It seemed like the toe was a massive factor going through turns 2, 3, and 4. Were you kind of confident that you had enough to back him off at that stage, or were you getting a bit worried in kind of the let's say the second quarter of that race that there might be contact?
I think I was always worried about the contacts. I mean, as soon as you get any form of contact, like I did in race 2, it pretty much ruins your whole race, which is the most frustrating thing. So I was very wary of where to place the car. Obviously on the straights you did see me weaving, but I only weaved once. So as far as I'm aware, that was okay. So I heard I was investigated, so whether anything's happened with that, I'm not so sure. So yeah, Alex had really good pace. I drove just a almost faultless first race, but unfortunately the second one wasn't too kind to me again. So yeah, P11 wasn't the greatest outcome in the world.
Yeah, and you'll be glad to know that our stewards Rob King and Sean McGinley have deemed that I suppose you weren't weaving so much more than breaking the toe, which is actually allowed in the championship, which is something that I didn't actually realise myself, which is my fault. Speaking of that second race, we were wondering, because you did manage to make it up to P11, passing Tony Stack late on, but was there contact early on? Did you have damage? And I was kind of speculating that potentially that was the reason why you didn't quite have the pace that I suppose we're used to seeing from you.
Yeah, so unfortunately, towards the latter half of, I think it was either the first or second lap, I had a collision with Niall Murray. I was sort of getting up alongside him, and we just turned in, and I think Niall misjudged it slightly, and that gave me front wing damage, but it wasn't so much that the whole thing came off. So to compensate, I just whacked the brake bias back just to sort of compensate the understeer, and I just managed it as best as I could. But my straight line speed was dismal. So yeah, I did fall back, which was frustrating. But hey, again, it's one of those things, and you just got to deal with it in iRacing.
And I suppose, Josh, as you well know from being in these championships, it's about making the best. Like obviously the wins are what brings you the glory, but it's those scrappy finishes, those making up points are what wins you championships. And you're actually ahead of the championship now. You're after making up a place in the championship, believe it or not, by our standing. So it just goes to show you that even though you probably came away from that second race a little bit disappointed and probably annoyed that you didn't quite get the pace that you'd wanted down the straight, that P11 finish still sees you now in the lead of the championship and in a very strong position going into the last 3 rounds.
Oh, that's really good to hear. I thought I was going to have at least lost some points to Alex because he got second and third, and I only got I got first and 11th. So I'm quite surprised at that. So yeah, that gives me a bit of confidence going into the.
I think he got 50 points, and then he got, if I'm right, I could be wrong there, but with the 11th. Could have gotten. Yeah,
well, there's a 10-point difference between first and second. So even if you can finish like that first position, Josh, I suppose tell us a little bit about like we're talking about the eDMC now upcoming, and obviously you're one of the names that won't be representing Ireland, naturally enough. But given you've raced in this championship, I suppose you'll probably be wearing. Have you any old Irish jerseys or any? Do you want us to send any over any scarves or anything that you can wear to support the lads?
Yeah, by all means, I'm up for that. Yeah, no,
Josh,
I've really enjoyed doing that.
Josh, thanks a million, and look, congratulations. As I say, our championship leader, you're leading by 4 points, up 2 places from third in the championship. So it's 184 for yourself, 180 for Alex Dunn, and then Dave Maguire on 151. I suppose final question: do you think you can win the thing outright? And I suppose second of all, given the fact that you were so unfortunate in the last season with the internet issues, does that provide even that little bit extra motivation to go ahead and get the job done?
Well, I hope I can sort of knit everything together in the final 3 rounds and take the title, because that would be amazing. But whether I've got the outright pace against Keith, against Peter, against Alex Dunn, it's that will be decided in the future, obviously. But given the fact that I have had quite a few internet issues, both recently and last season as well, it's sort of made the hunger a lot stronger to win this, at least this segment of the iDMC this year. So yeah, it's I must be honest, it's not a position I thought I was going to be in at the start of the season. So I will try and everything I can to try and clinch that title and move on to the next season in a really good position.
Well, Josh, I will make you a bet tonight, or I'll make you a promise tonight, that if you manage to finish first in the championship, I will send you the longest cable I can find on the internet and get you hooked up properly. Josh Phelan, congratulations, our championship leader.
We'll get that jersey over to you. How about that?
Yeah.
That sounds mint. Let's do it.
We've got to get the name and number 1 on the back. Josh Phelan, congratulations on your Heat 1 win and on your first place in the championship. And we're really looking forward to seeing what you can pull out in the next 3 rounds.
No worries, guys. Thanks again. Cheers.
Thanks, Josh.
So we have Keith in the box as well. Niall, do you want to interview him, or will I do the honours, or are we going to do a hybrid effort, or what?
Well, it'll be well. We won't do that. But Keith, welcome in. Great race in the end. It's great to see you back in the top spot. And I guess we could hijack this interview a little bit, Keith. We've named the team Ireland for this European Championship, and you kind of, I guess you demonstrated why you're on that team. But before we get into that, great race, and you and Peter just seem to be having so much fun out there. I know you guys have been paired in the same team, but just talk us through from your side. How did that race go?
Thanks, lads. Yeah, it was a good race. Kind of self and Peter were working together at the front and trying to keep the gap behind and try to pull away from Jason. Initially, it was tough to break the gap to Jason, to be honest. Eventually, we got enough of a gap, and then kind of just we were working together. But I don't think we were actually going slower nearly, because the dirty air behind the other car, although these cars don't have that much downforce, still quite tough in the middle section of the track. So yeah, no, we were happy with that. He done a bit of an El Baracello there at the end. I didn't want them to do that, but sure, yeah, is what it is.
Yeah, we were wondering. We actually were watching the last lap, Keith, to be honest, myself and Kevin. We went back to some race that was going on behind, and we actually missed the fact it was a white flag lap. So if you're looking back over the stream, you'd be having a laugh later on. But it was great to see that type of that racing. There was, I'm not gonna. The stewards have had a busy race, of course, but it was clean racing this time, and it was fair. But it just seemed to be that down that back, especially down through the chute and into the bus stop, the tow was a lot there. It was kind of, it wasn't even worth, what do you say, defending it sometimes.
Yeah, there's very little defending to be done really with the tow being that strong down the back straight. But yeah, it was good. I was lucky in race 1. I had a good start, got to the lead, and then the lads towed past me down the back straight, and I backed off, and then Alex made a little bit of a mistake coming back onto the club track, and I kind of went to kind of pass, but at least show my nose to pass him when he came over and just clipped the front of my nose. So that's why I dropped back. But kind of worked out in our favour a little bit, because Peter had an incident in the first race as well. So two of us.
He missed that. So that's what happened. We were wondering what happened to you, but that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it just took the nose off me. It was only a small bit of contact, like it was nothing deliberate or nothing like that. It was just one of them things. So that's what kind of put pay to my first race. It was a bit disappointed because I needed a good result. I could have done with some points, but yeah, such is life. But no, it's good to get the win the second race, and nice for myself and Peter to get the 1-2 as well for us. So yeah, happy with that.
Moving the conversation a little bit, and instead I'm going to hijack. Of course, you were the first official driver to represent Ireland in a digital cup. You have the experience of it. Keith, myself, and yourself went over and had a good time. Of course, Charlie was over there as well in Rome, but slightly different championship this time around. Of course, the FIA championship, just to unconfuse things for people, is later on the year in October at Paul Ricard, and we'll be putting together some qualifiers for that. But to go and represent the country again, pull on the jersey, it's going to be a big ask with this one, isn't it? LMP2 car, we haven't got a lot of time to get ready for it, and it's going to be bits of just looking at some of the entries. There's going to be some big names in this, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't even seen the entry list, or haven't really done much research into it yet, but probably after tonight now we can start kicking into gear and doing some practice and see how we get on. But yeah, no, definitely be tough, like, because there's just so many people on iRacing at the moment, and lots of people kind of put a lot of time in, so we won't have the time obviously to put in. There's a lot of professional guys will have, but yeah, so we'll be grand. Look, we'll give it we'll give it a good. We're at a good level over here, you know. We
were just saying that in this race. I think Kevin had asked, you know, like, was you know, you'd had a couple of, well, he's had a challenging couple of races, Keith, being honest with it, coming into this. Didn't all go your way at times, but I think, you know, we've got to know each other over the time. I'd say you're relishing this challenge, and the racing is so high. That's what I was pointing out. It wasn't that necessarily you'd gone off form. It was just that the standard in digital motorsports, and especially in this iDMC, it's really, really high quality now, and it's you can just see the level of drivers are pushing each other on. So I'm really eager to see how this Irish team fares when we do take on the rest of Europe. So, but it'd be great if the teams stand the way they are, and just running through them here. Of course, as we said, Charlie Eastwood paired with Alex Dunn. That's going to be a rapid pairing if Charlie can be available for it. But on the other side of it, it is great to see Charlie getting the opportunity to get back racing again, and this whole COVID thing pass over. And then Nicky Meredith, Niall Murray, be a great pairing there between the two guys. Jordan Kelly, Oscar Mangan, that's a strong pairing. Yeah,
they'd be quick as well, be very quick.
Peter McCann, Brian McManus, the VRA guys, they'll be working well. Of course, it is an endurance style race, and they'll like this LMP car, so that being with a very good shout as well. Strong pairing of then we have the two wild cards of Jonathan Brown, David Maguire. Jonathan Brown, of course, more than capable in that car, I'd say, and Dave Maguire coming into this championship was given a nod with some of the strong performances he put in iDMC. And then, of course, yourself and Peter. That's going to be... What time will Peter have to get up in the morning, do you reckon?
Probably 4 o'clock in the morning, so do him no harm. He'd be grand. Yeah, he might stay up and have a few drinks the night before and just maybe stay up, maybe. I don't know. We wait and see. But yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see how we get on. So we're very lucky. We've actually got a very high level of drivers over here at the moment. When you look at the likes of Oscar Mangan and Alex Dunn and Jordan as well, like, you know, the lads can put it up to the best of them at the best of times. So be interesting to see how we get on.
So a 1-2 for the turn 3, brothers of Keith and Peter, with Alex Dunn in behind. Thanks so much for giving us the time again, Keith. Anyone you want to give a shout out to, or anything you want to say?
No, just thanks to all the lads in turn 3. A couple of lads are missing this week. They had gone through a tough time, the McKenna. So just say we're thinking of them, and hopefully they'll be back soon.
Absolutely, and yeah, our thoughts go out there. So Keith, look, as always, great to see you there. Great to see you back. It certainly, I'm not sure if the points we put up in the stream there are bang on, but we'll have a look at that afterwards.
Give us a few extra, will you?
I'll see if I can find any that are hanging around. But thanks as always.
If only it were that simple.
I know.
It was that simple.
Right, good luck.
Take it easy.
Thanks a million.
Brilliant. So I suppose that's another evening's racing completed in the iDMC Pro Winter season. Rounds 5 and 6 at Watkins Glen in the bag. Keith Dempsey taking the feature, Josh Malin taking Heat 1, and I suppose taking the lead in the championship. An exciting night, and I suppose, Niall, I just want to ask you, coming back before we wrap up, because I know that there's people here, there's just children that need to be put to bed and racing that needs to be done. But can you just bring up that, if they might be so kind as to bring up that graphic with the Irish team again, because I just want to finish off on this, and I'm just interested to see what the thinking, now that we have you here in the booth as a guest, what the thinking was from the Digital Motorsport guys and everyone there, in terms of why you decided to pair who with who. Like some ones are obvious, like Peter and Keith, but there's some pairings there that people might be a little bit interested in hearing. Kind of what was the thinking behind why you put some guys with other guys, and why you thought those matchups would work well.
Well, first of all, with this Race of Nations, there's a whole framework behind how nations, and particularly just to call it out, it is actually the ASNs of each one of the nations who are putting forward these teams. So you had to hold a national championship to qualify for this. Now, interesting, I was on the working group who put together that framework and put together this model for Europe, and hopefully more countries join it next year. But that aside, to answer your question, of course, this is, you see at the bottom there, it is in association with Motorsport Ireland, and of course all of the ASNs from the host nations. The pairings did come down to ourselves. I'm going out on a limb here to say it was very obvious to us at the time. Of course, all these drivers have raced in iDMC. The drivers are all qualified to race in the European Digital Motorsports Cup, the Race of Nations. So to talk you through it, Charlie Eastwood, I was only talking to him, on WhatsApp earlier today. He was saying, look, he's 80% sure he may have to get to a testing day that day with Austin Martin, but we're not too sure, Kevin, with COVID at the moment, what way things are going. So what better opportunity for Charlie to share some of his experience and knowledge with young Alex Dunn there that we've seen, and that was really the thinking behind that. Get Charlie in, and it's no question that Alex has the speed, as you were saying, and he has the racecraft and everything behind him. So we just thought that would be good. Nicky Meredith, Niall Murray, two mates. Why not? They get on well, they race well. They bang wheels a lot, so it would have been interested to see how they get on in the same car. We haven't actually seen that. Same goes for Peter McCann and Brian McManus, two great friends together in a car, and between them they're going to put together a really formidable thing in this. Like kind of endurance racing is Peter's speciality. Spa will be Brian's track. I'm 90% sure it will be his favourite track out there. Jordan Kelly, Oscar Mangan. Jordan Kelly, previous iDMC champion. Oscar Mangan, probably with the highest rating in iRating. Going well, rapid drivers. So it could have been anyone in with Oscar. We just said the iDMC champion, why not? And Oscar himself, very capable and well renowned within iRacing. Jonathan Brown. These were two wild cards.
This is the interesting car, I think, because these are almost the two wild, like you say, the two wild card entries. The two guys who were in there on form and kind of form alone almost.
It was form alone. So looking at it, Jonathan Brown is very, very quick in the LMP2 car. That's what his speciality more or less is. And Dave Maguire just on the form coming into this round really with iDMC. We thought it was fair. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there raising eyebrows and would think there's other people in that spot, but everything within Digital Motorsports has always been around being, and you know that the community's built around being fair, being fast. You have to be fast, and ultimately it's about having a bit of fun with it as well. We don't want to take it all too serious at the end of the day, although we do want our racing to be as close to the real thing as possible. And then the final pairing of Peter and Keith, sure, why not?
Yeah, well, of all the, it's interesting because I obviously don't understand the dynamic. So I knew Peter and Brian were good buddies. I didn't know Nicky and Niall were such good buddies. But when I saw Peter and Keith, I just thought, yeah, that makes absolute sense. Like two guys who just know each other's driving inside out. who can almost second guess each other. You know what I mean? Like, when they know each other that well, that there's almost they can things can be said without even being said almost at that point, I feel.
Well, there's an interesting one here, and there's a second piece of this. The rule specs stated that you had to have real world drivers, so license holders, and digital drivers. So read between that as you will. Like, a lot of the drivers on here are license holders. Keith may not have one, and Nicky may not have one. So we've paired people up with what we think would be the strongest racing drivers to put forward, digital racing drivers. So Jonathan Brown gets the nod. I believe he was a former Formula Ford champion winner, definitely rapid driver anyway. Dave McGuire is in there purely on merit and the speed and the form that he's shown. And you couldn't, if you were to put a race on right now, who would you pick out of those six? You know, it's savage, six savage teams. So best of luck to them. It may change if drivers have to drop out, whatever. We'll have to get that firmed up. But literally, this is hot off the press. I believe we're the first country to name our team. Maybe Iceland got in before us there, just before this. But certainly, we haven't got a lot of time to get that team together. So we've just gone past the 10 o'clock mark, Kevin. Or
I think
leave it to you to wrap this up. But just a quick shout out to our sponsors once again. Of course, as always, just Shoreway Group, great supporters of us. SIMUCUBE, that competition and prizes there. Make sure you pick your best driver of the race. SimTag, best pedals, and more coming from SimTag in the future as well. Of course, all of this racing held in association with Motorsport Ireland, and we are Digital-Motorsports.com for all your racing needs in sim racing. And I'll leave it over to yourself, Kevin, to sign us off.
Thanks a million, Niall, for your company over the course of this evening. And indeed, I suppose you're a man of all talents there tonight, including the great revealer with the new team, the Irish team for this upcoming series. Going to be really exciting. In this the iDMC Winter Series, Josh Maynan taking Heat 1, Keith Dempsey taking the feature race. Agus Air Shocked in the Wega, Snus Watkins Glen, it's long before.